Have you ever looked at someone in their 90s, maybe a neighbor, a family member, or even a familiar face in the news, and thought to yourself, what's their secret? I mean, really thought about it. Not just a passing glance, but a genuine curiosity. Because let's be honest, we all want to live a long life, but more importantly, we want to live a good life. We want to wake up feeling like we have a reason to get out of bed. We want to feel strong enough to tend to the garden, sharp enough to follow the plot of a good book, and spry enough to keep up with the grandkids, even if it's just for a few hours on a Saturday afternoon. But here's the thing that often gets overlooked. When researchers and doctors study people who live past 90, the ones who are still thriving, not just surviving, they find that it's rarely about winning a genetic lottery. It's rarely about some expensive miracle cure or a strict, joyless diet. Instead, it almost always comes down to a collection of simple, everyday rules. Small principles that guide their lives, often without them even realizing it. In this video, we're going to uncover 7 of those rules. These aren't fads. They aren't complicated. They are the gentle, steady habits that have carried people through nearly a century of life, and they can absolutely work for you, starting right now. Let's start with the very first rule, and it might surprise you. It's not about what you eat or how much you exercise. It's about keeping a sense of purpose. Think about that for a moment. In our younger years, purpose is often handed to us. We have careers to build, children to raise, mortgages to pay. The structure of life gives us a reason to get up and get moving. But as we get older, that external structure can start to fade. The kids move out. Retirement arrives. And suddenly, for the first time in decades, the calendar is wide open. For some, that freedom is a dream come true. But for others, it can feel a little empty. And that emptiness, that lack of a why, can actually have a physical impact on us. I've seen it happen. I remember a gentleman named George who lived down the street from me when I was growing up. George was an engineer, a brilliant man who loved solving complex problems. When he retired, he told everyone he was going to relax. And he did. For about 6 months, he sat in his favorite chair, watched television, and read the paper. But slowly, he started to fade. He wasn't sick, but he seemed smaller, quieter. He lost his spark. Then, one day, his grandson brought over a broken remote control car. George fixed it. Then, another neighbor asked if he could take a look at a squeaky door. Before long, George had set up a little workbench in his garage. He wasn't getting paid. He wasn't saving the world. But he was needed. He was solving problems again. And you know what? That spark came right back. He walked taller. He laughed louder. George had rediscovered his purpose. You don't need to build a business or run a marathon to have purpose. Purpose can be tending to a small patch of roses. It can be writing letters to a friend who lives alone. It can be volunteering to read to children at the local library, or simply being the family member who remembers everyone's birthday. Purpose is simply having something to look forward to tomorrow. It's a reason to put on your shoes in the morning. And the people who live past 90, they almost always have one. So, ask yourself, what is it that makes you you? What is that one small thing you can do that brings you joy and connects you to the world? Hold on to that. Now, that sense of purpose naturally leads us to the second rule, which is something I see in almost every single person who lives a long, happy life. They are masters of staying socially connected. We live in a world that sometimes tells us independence is the ultimate goal. We think, I don't want to be a burden, or I'm fine on my own. And while there is great value in being self-sufficient, human beings are simply not designed to be alone. We are wired for connection. It's in our DNA. There was a fascinating study done years ago, looking at the people of Okinawa, Japan. You might have heard of it. It's one of the famous blue zones where people live the longest. The Okinawan elders have a beautiful concept called a moai. It's essentially a small, committed group of friends who support each other for life. They meet, they talk, they laugh, and they help each other through everything, good times and bad. This one social structure has been shown to reduce stress, improve health, and provide a safety net of emotional support that is absolutely priceless. You see, when we talk to people, when we share a meal, when we simply sit on a park bench with a friend, our bodies release chemicals that lower stress and make us feel safe and happy. It's a biological response. Loneliness, on the other hand, triggers a stress response that, over time, can wear down our bodies. It's that powerful. But here's the important part: social connection doesn't mean you have to be the life of the party. It's about quality, not quantity. For some, that might be a weekly phone call with a sibling who lives across the country. For others, it's a standing coffee date with a neighbor every Tuesday morning. It could be joining a walking group at the mall or a book club at the local library. It could even be the simple act of making eye contact and smiling at the cashier at the grocery store, asking them how their day is going. These small threads of connection weave a safety net that catches us when we stumble. I think about a woman named Eleanor I met once. She was 94, sharp as a tack, and lived alone. I asked her what her secret was, and she laughed. She pointed to a phone on her kitchen counter that had a long, curly cord. "This," she said. "Every morning at 10 o'clock, my best friend from high school calls me. We've done it for over 70 years. We talk about everything and nothing. If I'm feeling blue, she hears it in my voice. If she's worried about her son, I hear it in hers. That call is my anchor." Eleanor's story reminds us that connection doesn't require a big effort. It just requires consistency. It requires reaching out. The people who live longest are the ones who refuse to let those connections wither. They pick up the phone. They write the note. They open the door. They understand that we are all part of a larger story, and staying connected to the other characters is what makes the story worth living. So, as you go about your week, think about your own moai. Who are the people in your life that fill your cup? And more importantly, how can you nurture those connections, even just a little bit, starting today? Because a life shared is a life multiplied. Now, having a strong sense of purpose and a circle of people to share it with gives us a fantastic foundation. But to truly thrive into our 90s and beyond, there's another layer we need to add. It's about how we approach the inevitable changes that come with time. We've talked about the why and the who. Now, let's talk about the how. In just a moment, we're going to dive into the third rule, which is all about changing the way we think about our bodies and our movement. Because the next secret isn't about punishing exercise, it's about joyful, lifelong mobility. Let's get into it. So, we've been talking about the foundation that people who live past 90 build their lives upon. We talked about the importance of having a reason to get up in the morning, that sense of purpose that keeps the mind engaged. And we talked about the lifeline of social connection, the friends and family who keep us laughing and loving. These are the pillars that hold up the structure of a long life. But what about the physical side of things? What do these energetic 90-year-olds do with their bodies? This brings us to the third rule, and it's one that often gets misunderstood. It's about moving with a purpose, not for punishment. For so many of us, the word exercise can bring up unpleasant memories. It might conjure images of high school gym class, or boring calisthenics, or the idea that we have to push ourselves until we're sweating and miserable. But if you look at the people who live the longest, they don't work out in the traditional sense. They simply live a lifestyle that keeps them in constant, gentle motion. I remember reading about a woman named Susan, who was 102 years old and still tended her own vegetable garden. Every single day, weather permitting, she would go outside. She'd squat down to pull a weed. She'd reach up to trim a low-hanging branch. She'd walk back and forth to the compost pile. She'd carry a basket of tomatoes back to her kitchen. She never went to a gym. She never ran on a treadmill. But she was getting a full-body workout that kept her legs strong, her core stable, and her heart healthy, all while doing something she genuinely loved. That's the secret. It's not about forcing your body into a rigid routine. It's about finding ways to integrate movement into the things you already enjoy. Do you love birdwatching? That's an excuse for a gentle walk in the park or the woods. Do you love cooking? That involves standing, chopping, stirring, all wonderful movements. Do you love music? Put on your favorite oldies and sway around the living room for 15 minutes. Nobody's watching. It's just you and the music. The goal here is to fight the tendency to become sedentary. When we stop moving, our muscles begin to atrophy. Our joints get stiff. Our balance suffers. And that's when the risk of falls increases. But when we stay in motion, even just a little bit, we send a signal to our bodies that we are still alive and active. Our muscles remember they're needed. Our bones stay denser. Our hearts stay efficient. Think of your body like a well-loved pair of leather gloves. If you leave them in a drawer for years, the leather gets stiff and cracks when you finally try to put them on. But if you wear them regularly, they stay soft, supple, and form-fitting. Your joints and muscles are exactly the same. They need to be used to stay useful. So, rule number 3 is this: ditch the word exercise if it feels like a chore, and replace it with movement. Ask yourself, what's one thing I love to do that gets me off the couch? It could be dancing in the kitchen, walking to a neighbor's house instead of calling, or even just marching in place during the commercial breaks of your favorite TV show. It all counts. It all adds up. Now, once we have our bodies moving, we have to address what fuels that movement. This leads us to the 4th rule, and it's one that might challenge some of the diet advice you've heard over the years. It's about eating with gratitude, not guilt. We are bombarded with so many confusing messages about food. Don't eat this. Cut out that. Carbs are bad. Fat is worse. By the time we reach a certain age, food can start to feel like the enemy, something to be feared and restricted. But the people who live past 90, they have a completely different relationship with what's on their plate. They see food as fuel, as medicine, and as a source of joy. I'm not talking about indulging in junk food all day, of course. But I am talking about letting go of the stress around eating. There's a wonderful concept in many long-living cultures called hara-hachibu, which comes from the Okinawans we mentioned earlier. It's a simple practice of eating until you are about 80% full. It's not a strict diet, it's a mindful pause. You eat slowly, you enjoy every bite, and you listen to your body. When you feel that the initial edge of hunger is gone, you put down your fork. Think about how different that is from the way many of us were raised. We were taught to clean our plates, to finish everything served to us, regardless of whether we were still hungry. This mindful approach allows you to enjoy your favorite foods without overdoing it. You can have a small piece of your daughter's birthday cake. You can enjoy a bowl of hearty, homemade soup. You can savor a handful of nuts. The key is presence. When you eat with gratitude, thanking the farmer who grew the vegetables, or the loved one who prepared the meal, you are automatically more present. You taste the food more. You feel satisfied with less. There's also a simplicity to their eating. They tend to lean towards whole foods, things that look like they came from the ground or an animal, not from a factory. A colorful plate of roasted vegetables. A piece of fish with a squeeze of lemon. A bowl of beans and rice. A piece of fresh fruit for dessert. It's not about deprivation, it's about prioritizing the good stuff and letting the treats be the side note, not the main event. I think about an old friend of my grandfather's named Charlie. Charlie lived to be 97. He had a sweet tooth that wouldn't quit. He loved ice cream. But every night, he would have a small bowl, not a giant one, and he would sit on his porch and eat it with a tiny spoon, making it last as long as possible. He savored it. He looked at the sunset. He listened to the crickets. He didn't feel guilty for 1 second. He enjoyed it. And because he didn't deprive himself, he never felt the need to binge. That's the balance. It's the difference between eating out of boredom or stress and eating out of genuine nourishment and pleasure. When we take the guilt off the table, we reduce our stress. And reducing stress is one of the most powerful things we can do for our longevity. So, Rule 4 is a gentle invitation to make peace with your plate. Eat slowly. Eat mindfully. Stop when you're satisfied, not stuffed. And give yourself permission to enjoy the foods you love in reasonable amounts. Your body knows how to handle it, as long as you're listening. We've covered a lot of ground. We've built a strong mental and social foundation with purpose and connection, and we've started to nurture our bodies with joyful movement and mindful eating. These 4 rules alone can transform the way you feel. But the people who live past 90 don't stop there. They have a secret weapon, a 5th rule that protects them from the worries and stresses that can rob us of our peace. It's a way of thinking that acts like a shield for the soul, and it's something we can all learn to do, no matter our circumstances. Let's explore that next. So far, we've talked about some beautiful, practical habits. We've talked about finding your purpose, nurturing your friendships, moving your body in ways that feel good, and making peace with food. These are the actions that build a long life. But if you look closely at the people who make it past 90 with a twinkle still in their eye, you'll notice something else. It's not just what they do. It's how they think. And that brings us to the 5th rule, which is perhaps the most powerful of them all, letting go of the small stuff and embracing a flexible mind. You've likely met someone like this. Nothing seems to rattle them. The weather might be terrible, their plans might change, they might misplace their glasses for the 10th time, and they just shrug. They adapt. They move on. They don't let the little frustrations of daily life steal their joy. This ability to be flexible, to roll with the punches, is like a superpower for your nervous system. Think about it. When we get upset about something, traffic, a rude comment, a burnt piece of toast, our bodies release stress hormones. A little bit of stress is normal. But if we're getting upset several times a day, every day, those hormones build up. They create inflammation. They raise blood pressure. They wear us down from the inside. The long-lived among us have figured out that most things are simply not worth that cost. They've developed a kind of selective hearing. They let the unimportant stuff just float on by. I remember reading about a woman named Doris who turned 100. A reporter asked her what the biggest change in the world had been during her lifetime. She thought for a moment and said, "The speed of everything. Everyone is in such a hurry to be unhappy." Isn't that profound? She understood that holding on to anger or frustration is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It doesn't work that way. It only hurts you. So, Rule 5 is a practice of conscious release. When you feel that tightness in your chest because something isn't going your way, take a breath. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week? In a day? In an hour? If the answer is no, let it go. Give yourself permission to be at peace. It's not about being a doormat, it's about choosing your battles wisely and preserving your energy for the things that truly bring you joy. Now, letting go of stress clears the mental clutter and makes room for something else, something that is absolutely essential for a long, vibrant life. This brings us to the 6th rule, maintaining a sense of wonder and curiosity. Have you ever noticed how children are naturally curious? Everything is a question. Why is the sky blue? How does that work? What's under that rock? As we age, it's easy to lose that. We settle into routines. We think we've seen it all. We stop asking questions. But the people who live past 90, they never stop being students of the world. They are curious. They read newspapers. They watch documentaries. They ask questions. They want to know about your life, your grandchildren, your travels. This constant engagement with the world is like a workout for the brain. It creates new neural pathways. It keeps the mind sharp and resilient. I think of a man named Frank, a 93-year-old I heard about who decided he wanted to learn to play the cello. His family thought he was crazy. "You're 93, they said. He replied, "If I don't learn now, I'll be 94 and still not know how to play." And he did it. Was he ever going to play at Carnegie Hall? No. But that wasn't the point. The point was the learning. The point was the challenge. The point was the joy of discovering something new. Curiosity is the antidote to stagnation. It can be something big, like learning an instrument or a new language. Or it can be something small. Take a different route on your daily walk. Try a new recipe. Read a book about a place you've never been. Watch a documentary about an animal you know nothing about. When you stay curious, you stay engaged. And when you stay engaged, you stay alive. The world is still full of wonders, no matter how many birthdays you've had. The secret is to keep looking for them. So, we have purpose. We have connection. We move. We eat mindfully. We let go of stress. We stay curious. These 6 rules create a life of incredible richness. But there is one final rule, and it's the one that ties them all together. It's the golden thread that runs through every long and happy life I've ever seen or read about. It's the 7th rule, cultivating an attitude of gratitude. This is more than just saying thank you. This is a deep-seated, daily practice of appreciating what you have, right here, right now. The people who live past 90 are masters of contentment. They don't spend their time longing for the good old days or worrying about a future they can't control. They focus on the present moment, and they find something good in it. It might be the warmth of the sun on their face. It might be the taste of their morning coffee. It might be the sound of a bird singing outside the window. It might be a phone call from a grandchild. These are not small things to them. These are the treasures of life. Gratitude shifts your entire perspective. When you are focused on what you lack, you feel poor and dissatisfied. When you are focused on what you have, you feel rich and fulfilled. It's that simple. I remember a story about a 101-year-old man who was asked what he was most grateful for. Everyone expected him to talk about his long life, or his children, or his health. He thought about it for a moment, smiled, and said that I still have all my own teeth. It was a small, funny thing. But it showed his mindset. He was looking for the good, and he found it, even in something as simple as a healthy smile. Gratitude is a muscle. You have to exercise it. Maybe it's a mental habit you do while you're falling asleep. You think of 3 things that went well that day. Maybe it's a small notebook where you jot down one happy moment. Maybe it's simply making it a point to tell the people in your life that you appreciate them. When you practice gratitude, you remind yourself that life, even with its aches and pains and challenges, is still a beautiful gift. So, here we are. 7 simple rules. Not a single one of them requires a prescription or a gym membership. They are all available to you, right now, starting today. Find your purpose, no matter how small. Reach out to someone you love. Move your body in a way that feels joyful. Eat your meals with mindfulness and without guilt. Learn to let go of the little frustrations. Stay curious about the world around you. And every single day, find something to be grateful for. These aren't just rules for living past 90. They are rules for living well, at any age. They are the secrets to waking up every morning with a sense of anticipation, rather than dread. They are the path to feeling strong, connected, and at peace. I hope these ideas have resonated with you. I hope they've sparked something inside you, a little nudge to try something new or look at your life a little differently. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please take a moment to click that like button down below. It really helps others find this content too. And if you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so we can continue this journey together. I'll be here with more conversations just like this one. But more than that, I truly love to hear from you. What is one small rule or habit that has kept you going strong over the years? Or which of these 7 are you going to try first? Share your story in the comments. Let's build a community of support and wisdom right here. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and here's to living your very best life, starting now. I'll see you in the next video.